Hello, nerds! Thank you once again for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your Week in Nerddom TV edition for the week of February 5th, 2018. This week in TV news, the internet is up in arms about the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, an incredible Game of Thrones leak. Warner Brothers has something else up their sleeve for their digital streaming platform that's given us Titans and so much other stuff. And we also have a lot of other stuff to talk about on TV news, so let's get into that intro.
Quiet on the set, rolling.
Hi, I am Bitsy Telek.
Hey, I'm Hale Appleman.
I'm Walter Kane.
I'm Rene Aubergenois. Odo on Deep Space Nine.
Michael Dorn, Lieutenant Commander Worf, Star Trek The Next Generation.
Come and see me and hear me and talk to me and listen to me talk about myself.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, often considered generally nerdy, and you are listening to what is often considered generally nerdy.
On Generally Nerdy.
You're listening to
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Generally Nerdy.
Before we do the intro, I have an announcement for the channel, which is pretty awesome. We just got our first $5 patron over on patreon.com. So insert the part of the show where I would do the question answer bit for the whatever topic we're on. So since we're on TV, it would be a Q&A kind of thing. We would talk about something that our $5 patron wants to talk about. He has yet to send me any questions or anything like that to contribute, so we don't have anything for this portion other than to say thank you very much, Marty. Your $5 a month is very much appreciated. And the rest of you, if you are new to the channel and you don't know, generallynerdy.net is the website, and patreon.com/generallynerdy is where you can go to contribute to this conversation and add to the quality of the show. So, that being said, let's jump right into the news. First up, we're talking about the X-Files, because we always are talking about the X-Files because it's airing right now and this is the last season. So if we weren't talking about the X-Files, I would be doing a disservice to the nerd community. So we got a mid-season trailer for the rest of the season. Kind of was mostly made up of stuff that we've already seen. Though we did get some glimpses ahead. Definitely going to link in the description. Though, let's talk about the episodes. So last week's episode was Ghul, and we got to finally meet Mulder and Scully's son, though it's not technically Mulder's son from what we understand right now. Apparently it's Mulder's brother, which is really weird. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're behind on your X-Files, or you've missed some stuff and you definitely need to catch up. So catch up on your X-Files. This episode, we got a little glimpse of his abilities, the young Mulder, or Scully, whatever. William is his name. I think he was going by Jacob, was his adopted name. But God, this is the X-Files that we grew up watching. If you aren't watching it, you are definitely missing out on some of the best television ever. Not even right now, but ever. So next week's episode is called Kitten, and it has Haley Joel Osment in it, and he looks like he's a conspiracy theorist, something along the lines of the Lone Gunman from the original series, only a little goofier, a little less funded. But yeah, he was in the mid-season trailer too. It seemed though that the footage in the mid-season trailer seemed to be more than what we saw in the trailer for the next episode. So maybe he's going to be coming back in another episode, or maybe I'm just misreading that mid-season trailer. Either way, looks like it's going to be some really good stuff. So we are in for a treat for this final season of the X-Files. Alright, before we get off of the X-Files, I forgot when I was filming originally that I had I had a note anyway about the set piece that we spent a fair portion of last week's episode, Ghul, in. That broken down, the like falling apart boat that they were in, that they spent a good amount of time in. It was the same set piece from last week's episode of Supernatural, or not last week's, but the mid-season break episode of Supernatural that sent Sam and Dean to that alternate reality, and then Jack to another reality where Sam and Dean's mom is. It was the same. I don't know. It just felt really weird that Supernatural used it, and then not that much later, the X-Files used it. And I don't know. I just wanted. Did anybody else notice this? Am I the only one who's crazy enough to have seen this? But I will have to look it up to be double sure. But I'm almost 100% sure that is the exact. It's very likely the same location, because it looked. I don't know, just the footbridge that leads up to the wreckage and the surrounding boats and everything, it just seems like it's the same set. I feel like Fox has something to do with CW, so I'm probably not too far off. They probably secured the location for both shows. Yeah, anyway, that's just a really random thing that I wanted to share with you guys. So, yeah, I guess we're going back into your regularly scheduled TV episodes. Stay tuned, keep watching, and we're moving on. Next is something that we talked about a few weeks ago at this point. It was originally announced that the CW is going to try and reboot Roswell. They greenlit a script, and now that script has been greenlit for a pilot. The new script is focusing on a single, it's a couple effectively, but primarily it's focusing on the female of the couple. She falls in love with a military guy, and it turns out the military guy is the alien instead of the girl who falls in love with the kid from the diner, the waiter, I believe is what he was. And then he and his siblings turn out to be aliens. This one seems to be more slimmed down as far as primary characters. That's all we know so far. We know it's being greenlit for a pilot. Maybe we'll get to see that pilot even if the show doesn't actually get the go-ahead for a season. But yeah, really interesting. It's like Teenage X-Files, just kind of how it was originally. So maybe they're going to take it seriously. Maybe they're going to play it campy. The original series was a little melodramatic, but it was, at the time, it was the WB or UPN. I can't remember which, but it's now the CW. It's all the same stuff. And they've been doing really well with their comic book franchises, so I can only imagine that they're going to do fairly well with Roswell as well. That was a whole lot of wells all at once. But that's all we know, so we gotta kick it on down the road. Next, we got a bunch of production stills from the next season of Channel Zero. Link to them is in the description. Wow. I'm super excited. Like, I watched the first season passively. I need to binge watch the second season before season 3 starts. But I really dug the first season. It was really bizarre. It was one of the few horror genre television shows that actually kept my interest, and it did it really well, and was really hard to figure out because it was really twisted, and that, I would imagine, transferred into season 2. Again, it's an anthology series, so each season is self-contained. So if you didn't watch season 2 or season 1, you can jump on with season 3. But I just want to be a completionist and watch season 2 before season 3 airs. So that's where I'm at with it. Are you guys as excited about Channel Zero as I am? Because horror is fun, and it's fun to be a little scared sometimes, right? Anyway, again, click that link in the description. Check out the stills from the next season. And we're kicking on down the road. We're moving into some more previews from the set for another show that a lot of people watch. A little show, maybe you've heard of it, called Game of Thrones. There was cell phone video that leaked on the internet. If you haven't seen it, try and find it. I don't have a link for it because the video I saw, I couldn't get a link to, if that makes sense, because I just don't have the patience to dig through code these days. But it exists. I would imagine by the time this is uploaded, someone will have also uploaded it to YouTube, so you can try and find it on YouTube. If I can find it on YouTube, I'll put a link in the description, but being as I'm in the past and you're in the future, I don't know if that's happened yet. So perhaps there's a link. Check that description below if I find that footage. But anyway, the footage is Winterfell is burning. It's been confirmed that this is actually happening. It's not just it's a horrible accident that went so bad and the whole set went up in flames. No, they set it on fire on purpose. It seems like there's going to be a giant battle in Winterfell, which leads me to believe that the White Walkers are making it pretty far south of the Wall. So hopefully they will make up for last season being kind of meh. I mean, meh for Game of Thrones is still better than 70%, 80% of the rest of television. So take with that what you will. But Winterfell is on fire. So excited for Game of Thrones. Too bad we have to wait a whole year still. Even more than a year, because it's probably going to be right about April of 2019. April, May-ish of 2019. The Maisie Williams rumor was confirmed to be false. She didn't actually say that it was going to be May 19th of 2019. Somebody misquoted her from an interview she did. She said a few years ago, so it has no bearing on. We don't know exactly when the premiere of the final season of Game of Thrones is going to be, but it is not for sure going to be in May. I would imagine it'll be somewhere around there, April, May, June, something like that, but we won't know until they tell us. So again, try and find that. It's epic. It's so cool. Anyway, we're moving on. We're moving over to Netflix series, Lemony Snicket's series of unfortunate events. So sorry. Neil Patrick Harris recently was quoted as saying that it's only going to be 3 seasons. They're doing what they can to be as faithful to the books as possible, and that it requires apparently 3 seasons, and so they're not going to go longer. They're not going to add content to the books because I've never read the books. My girlfriend has the books, so I could have read the books. I just haven't because I'm lazy. But they're being real faithful to the books, and it's really great series. If you haven't seen season 1, watch season 1. Season 2 should be. I didn't grab the release for it, but it should be sometime this year. Because season 1 was last year, and they're not taking a giant break like Stranger Things and Game of Thrones. But that's all we got for that. We're moving on. Next is Watchmen. We have it's 100% official, going to happen. Still don't know if it's been confirmed that John Cena is going to be is going to play Dr. Manhattan, but we haven't heard any other potential castings for it, so my money says John Cena's gonna be Dr. Manhattan. Now, the way I feel like this plays out might be different than a lot of nerds are thinking. I feel like one actor will be Dr. Manhattan before the accident, and then Cena will be the big blue guy. So I can't think of Dr. Manhattan's proper character name. I'm so sorry, nerds. Please don't lynch me in the comments. But yeah, definitely interesting choice. That's not the news we're talking about necessarily, though. The producer, showrunner rather, Damon Lindelof, did a show called The Leftovers. That show had a regular writer/director named Nicole Castle. Nicole Castle has just been brought on to direct the pilot episode for HBO's Watchmen series. And HBO also made an official statement saying that the series will be a separate entity from Zack Snyder. Scott Snyder writes comic books. He does not make movies. Zack Snyder, however, is the opposite. Makes movies and not comic books. HBO said that The series will exist separately from Zack Snyder's movie. So what does that mean? We're definitely going to see the story from the comic book play out. That's without a doubt. Now, are they going to add information from the before Watchmen? We've brought this up before in conversation. I really want to hear what you guys have to say. What are your conjectures? What are your predictions? Let's use a regular word and not my $5 vocabulary, but what are your predictions for the pilot episode or even the whole season of The Watchmen? Definitely let's talk about that in the comments. Next, though, we're talking about Titans. We have another casting call. They keep playing vague with us. Why not just say the character? It's not like we're not gonna watch it if we know who the character that you're casting for is. Anyway, it's potentially Ra's al Ghul. This comes from that hashtag show who keeps breaking all of these casting calls. I'm not entirely sure where they're getting their information from, but I'm appreciative of the information. Anyway, the casting call says, and I quote, male, 40s to 50s, Middle Eastern, Latin, or East Indian, seeking a young Richard Attenborough type. Fearless, manipulative, with unparalleled intelligence, recurring guest star, seeking recognizable faces only. So, if it is Ra's al Ghul, or Raish, however you want to say it, I really don't remember how they said it in the Batman animated series. I'm pretty sure it was Ra's. Anyway, if it is Ra's al Ghul, then it's a recurring guest star, so that's really awesome. Very interesting. So eventually we'll be getting a Damian, that would imply at least that we would be getting a Damian to become Robin, and then Grayson would move on to Nightwing, and Nightwing has been in Titans comics, so that kind of makes sense. They're playing a long game there. This is a Berlanti show, again. This is within the Berlanti universe, so it doesn't make sense to me why they wouldn't use the guy that they had play Ra's in the Arrow series. But maybe these aren't going to have any crossover with the Arrow / Flash universe / Supergirl. So, very interesting. Ra's al Ghul is a great villain. So, I really want to see what they do with them in Titans. But we're moving on. Next is another show that is going to be on the DC streaming or Warner Brothers. I'm sorry, it's Warner Brothers, even though primarily it's comic book shows. Their streaming app that Titans is going to be on. The Warner Brothers just announced another new series for that streaming app, and it's called Metropolis. So it's apparently happens before Superman becomes Superman. It happens before Clark moves to Metropolis. So it kind of is. Clark is not part of the picture, and it focuses apparently on Lois and Lex. Yeah, Lois Lane and Lex Luthor before Superman happens. While they investigate fringe science, quote unquote, and expose the city's bizarre secrets. Executive producers John Stevens and Danny Cannon are from Gotham. They will be executive producing the show, so that means our expectations are pretty low. And with that synopsis, the description of the series, investigating fringe science and exposing Metropolis's bizarre secrets. Yeah, like I said, low expectations. Oh, man. Anyway, moving on to our last bit of news for the week. And this last bit of news has to do with the Ninja Turtles. We teased it on the intro. We're talking about it right now. This is probably my biggest, my most anticipated bit of news for this week. We talked about a couple weeks ago the casting of the new voices and how they're all relatively green except for the guy who's doing Splinter. This week, they released some new art, which I saw first, and then I saw the reaction to the new art. And then I saw the announcement that they made, and I'm just going to do all of it all at once. So right now on the screen, you're seeing some of that artwork. And so they changed some stuff with the Ninja Turtles, and it's freaking people out. Nerds are going crazy right now with this announcement that they've changed some pretty key elements of the Turtles. First, they changed who the leader is. In every iteration that I have ever been aware of, and I didn't read extensively the original comic series. I did read a few issues, but I fell in love with the cartoon, so the comics that are more in line with that are the ones that I read the most. Not to say that the Eastman series is at all bad, because it's actually fantastic. It just isn't something that I really got into. I really got into Turtles after they had their kind of kiddo makeover. Anyway, so forever the leader has been Leonardo. And with this new series, and the new series is called Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if you don't remember. With this new series, Raphael is going to be the new leader. Now, for you Raph fans out there, I understand that you're super excited about this, but part of the reason that people are fans of Raph is because he's the rebel. He's the hard-headed one. He's the one who goes against what where Leo's trying to direct the group. He's the one who questions Master Splinter. That's the draw. He's the bad boy, right? So now, not only are they changing that, but, and this isn't explicitly stated in their statement, but it is kind of implied that he's not going to be that rebellious anymore. Sure, judging by the artwork, he is. It looks like they're trying to go for some sort of hard ass. You know, he's going to be a badass, but that's not to say that he's going to be a rebel. So that's changing, and the reason I can make that assumption is because they said that Leo is going to be more rebellious now that he's not the leader, and it's not that this iteration he was once the leader and now Raph is taking over. No, this is just how they're playing it. They also are changing some of the weapons, which is the biggest change is to Raph. So Raph always has had size. The same weapon that Melina has in Mortal Kombat. If you are unfamiliar with it, I'm sure I'll find a picture and throw it up on the screen. So Raph has always had size. Always, always, always. And now he's got batons. He's got the nightsticks, tonfas are what they're called. But it's a police nightsticks is what they look like, because that's what police use as nightsticks. So that's changed. Leo's weapons slightly changed. It is long sword, so he only has one. I have the note. Will be wielding an Odaki sword. So it's a Japanese sword, and it's a long sword, so it's a single sword. Donatello probably has received the least amount of changes because he's still the smart guy. He still uses a bow staff. Still a nerd. So Donnie's still one of my dudes. Mikey has received some interesting tweaks. Mikey will be now using a Kasuri Fundo, which is kind of like his weapon later in the original series, the original 80s into the 90s series. He stopped using nunchucks for a plethora of reasons that we don't have to get into right now. And he started using a bola, kind of. It's a combat chain. It's a traditional weapon used in Japan. And his personality has been tweaked. He's no longer a party boy. I'm sure he's still the youngest, but he's no longer super, yo, surfing bro. He's got the personality of an artist, so whatever that means. The other change that's relatively minor in my eyes is they're no longer nondescript turtles. They all are a different type of turtle. The original release, the statement says that they're all different reptiles, but then they list the different reptiles that they are, and they're all turtles. So Mike, where did it go? Raphael is a snapping turtle. Leonardo is a red-eared slider. Donatello is a soft-shell turtle, and Michelangelo is a box turtle. So that's going to be the one that's the most like their previous incarnations, is the box turtle. Also, and this one is probably more major, is they're changing, it's not really a change. They're adding magical powers to the Ninja Turtles. And they're changing the setting slightly. So originally it was just they lived in the sewers, and it was what you would expect of the sewers in a cartoon from New York. And even in subsequent comic books and the live action movies and so on and so forth, it's always been just a rundown, living in pipes kind of situation. Except for the second and third live action movies where they found an old train station, but it's still underground. Now, it's not just sewers that are underground, it's a whole other city that may or may not have something to do with their magical powers. So, April O'Neil has also changed. She's younger. She looks from the artwork to be a teenager just like the guys. And she's also black now, which is relatively, like, I could really care less. I focus on the turtles because they're the driving force of the show. It is set... Oh, and their primary antagonist is going to be a mutant alchemist named Baron Draxum. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, it's set to premiere later this year. I'm sure we will get all kinds of news between now and then, but that is where I'm going to end this week's TV episode. What did I miss, guys? Let me know in the comments below what we should talk about next week. And if you want to go deeper in the conversation, like I said at the beginning of the episode, check out the website, generallynerdy.net. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/generallynerdy. But while you're here, if you are new to the channel, click the subscribe button. If you like this episode, click the like button. If you're listening on audio, leave me a review, leave me a rating, anything like that. If you're watching on YouTube and you've been missing out on your nerd news, you want to catch up, click or tap right there to the left of my face to do that. But before you do, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.